So many people know Usborne Books and More for our preschool books, but really we have so much more to offer. A lot of homeschoolers know our nonfiction too, and I'll get to that in a little bit. First, I want to share some books for our younger learners, those who can't quite read yet. To start off, we've got our first picture ABC and 1, 2, 3 pack. These are great books with all kinds of things to talk about on each page. I love the numbers one. It's got 8 or 10 or one of every single thing on the page in there. So it's great. We've got our finger trail ABC books. These come both in lowercase and uppercase letters, and you can see when we turn it to the side, every page is like that. By the way, every page has cut out letters that kids can trace. It's great for fine motor skills. We've also got storybooks. Our 10-minute story series are great for read alouds during the day or at night, age appropriate for younger children. And we've also got stories that teach. Our How Big is a Million, for example, has Pipkin the Penguin discovering base 10 numbers, 10, 100, 1,000, and then the poster at the back, which is about the size of a dining room table, has 1,000,000 stars on it. It's fantastic, love it. But I would be remiss if I did not talk about our Shine a Light books. This is Secrets of the Apple Tree. We've got about 20 books in this series at this point. And what happens is you take a flashlight and you can shine a light and see what's going on behind and underneath. Like, for example, in this particular case, it's underneath the tree canopy. So the mama bird is bringing her baby birds a worm. Secrets of the Apple Tree, Secrets of the Rainforest, Secrets of the Seashore, they're all fantastic. Usborne's amazing Lift the Flap books go from very young to very old. We have Lift the Flap, for example, the very first questions and answers series comes things like, what is snow, what is poop, and a new favorite, what are germs, where do they live, and it treats all these wonderful topics in an age-appropriate fashion. Then you go up a little tiny bit and you get instead of the very first questions and answers, you get the first questions and answers series. What's it like in space? How do animals talk? How do flowers grow? These are great for your preschool type learners. How do you get there? Where can you go in space? How far can you go? Why do I need a spacesuit? And it says, because there's no air to breathe, so you need an oxygen tank and a helmet, and it points out what those are. You also need thick layers to protect you, and a radio is useful too. Okay, so they're great for preschool. Moving up a little bit for our 4 and 5-year-olds, we've got the Look Inside series, Look Inside Your Body, Look Inside Wild Weather. This one treats all of the systems of the body. This is the respiratory system, for example, and then we've got our muscles and bones. We've got a digestive tract at one point, the brain at another point, and all of these flaps you see inside, and the kids are able to learn from them. We've also got animal homes and all kinds of different trains and all kinds of different Lift the Flap books like that. Moving up one more level, we've got our Lift the Flap Learning Series. Whoops. Lift the Flap Learning Series. This is Lift the Flap Seasons and Weather. And so it'll talk about seasons and weather on maybe a kindergarten level, possibly a 4-year-old level, depending on your child. So for example, fall in the park. In the fall, leaves change color and fall off the trees. There are fruits, nuts, and berries to find too. And so you lift the flaps to find these things. And some of the flaps are little, like this one. And some of the flaps are larger. Lift the Flap series. By the way, every single time I reference a book, we have multiple different sorts of books in this same series. So that in that series, there's numbers and opposites and shapes and things like that as well. We have so much science for young learners and so many different types of science books for young learners. We have got these amazing beginners type books. We've got living in space and weather and things like that, in addition to animals, in addition to history. These books start for preschool, and they go, preschoolers will enjoy reading along with you. And then they'll go all the way up through 2nd grade. They're written on a 2nd grade reading level. They're dyslexia friendly because they're written on colored paper. and in little bits with bite-sized pieces of information. Every 2 pages is a different subject, and that helps especially the younger kids with their attention spans. It helps increase their attention spans. So these are great, these little beginners books. And like I said, they come in box sets, history, animals, and science, as well as a few individually. Finally, in the nonfiction category, I wanted to share with you my first encyclopedia. These books are all available individually, but you can save a ton of money. This is a combined volume for just $20, and the pages are nice and thick, and it treats various scientific principles with very high quality pictures, drawings, pictures, and little bits of information that will not overwhelm a child. So this is a great investment for your younger kids. Speaking of investments, I would be completely remiss if I didn't tell you about the My First Reading Library. This is a wonderful 50-book selection. It comes with a QR code with a parent guide on top, and this is a complete phonics curriculum. And let me show you what I mean when I say a complete phonics curriculum. It starts off, there are 2 level 1 through level 7 books where the parent reads this part and the child reads this part. You are supposed to read this over and over and over again until the child has the book completely memorized. In order to aid you in your quest to read it again, you can incentivize the kids with puzzles for reading comprehension and visual acuity at the end of every single book. Moving up a little bit in difficulty, we have, this is level 5. You can see that the words for the kids are becoming a little harder, but the parents are still reading part of it. It's not until book 8 where the parents stop reading after the first read through or 2 and let the kids read on their own. But by the time they've gotten to book 15, they have seen every single sound in the English language in all of its different spellings. So they'll see F, the sound F, as FF, as PH, as GH, like in rough. They'll see it all. And when they've got it memorized, it's easy to go back and say, oh, that sounds like such and such. So let me show you one of my favorite pages because it illustrates what I'm talking about so well. His little blue boat sailed out on the ocean, though nobody saw it in all the commotion. Ocean and commotion rhyme, but they're spelled completely differently. And again, they have the puzzles at the back of the book for great learning and comprehension skills. Then in the 50-book reading set, there are 12 level 1 books that look like this. They're fairly easy to read. They should be fairly easy to read after reading through the book 15. And then there are 18 level 2 books that look like this with more words per page, slightly more difficult words, and so forth. They can go on with our Read with Usborne series if they'd like to, but there are, once they've hit book 15, they're actually ready to read nearly anything phonetically. We have other books that you'll want to use to help your children learn to read. For example, we have Ted and Friends, which comes with both a QR code on the back or a CD in the front. These are early phonics readers. Everything rhymes in here. Everything's fairly easy to read. A lot of consonant, vowel, consonant words. And a little yellow duck to find on every page that works on visual acuity. When you are done with Ted and Friends, kids can go up to our other additional phonics readers. This is a combined volume. It's got 6 books in it for $15. Great value. By the way, Ted and Friends has 12 stories for $20. And then this is slightly more difficult phonics reading. And we have 3 combined volumes of phonics books that are slightly more advanced. Finally, we have our wonderful complete book of Farm Yard Tales, one of our iconic books. Again, there's a little yellow duck to find on every page. Again, it's got a CD and a QR code so you can listen to the stories on the road. Or, you know, a younger one can listen to the stories while the older ones do something with you. In these books, every book starts the same way. This is Apple Tree Farm. This is Mrs. Boot the farmer. She has 2 children called Poppy and Sam and a dog called Rusty. That is a very comforting thing for our youngest readers. And again, they can find the little yellow duck. But as your children are learning to read, your kindergarten or first grade reader can read the top line. It's always a very easy line. And then your second grade reader can read the bottom line. This book is therefore useful in a couple of different situations, and my kids used it in both of these situations. The first one is just listening to the stories, finding the duck, having fun, and that's, 2 and 3. Once they start reading, they love reading the top. They love reading along with the CD or the audio track, and so that's 4, 5, 6. So this book can last for a long, long time. There are 20 different stories in this book. Last but not least, for our young learners, we have got amazing wipe clean books. And these go from very young, and I'll show you older ones in a little bit, but very young where they're just working on pen control. They have activity books with mazes and things, or they've got regular learning books that kids can practice their letters and do homework alongside their older siblings. They love doing homework alongside their older siblings. And it's great fun. So these make excellent tools for homeschooling. Usborne Books More has so many amazing books for our older learners, and I'm going to treat them subject by subject, not age by age, because it actually makes more sense to do it this way. So the first thing I want to show you is the learning palette. The card has 2 holes in it, so it can be put on the palette in a particular way, and that's going to make more sense in just a second. For our younger learners, there are lines down the middle, and sometimes there are even lines dividing quadrants, and so it's going to have the same answers on both sides of the line, and it's just going to, the dividing line just helps make everything clearer. So we're going to take this side right here of the thing, and I will show you how it is a self-correcting learning tool. It is not a toy, but kids love it. They think it is a toy. And so the first question is, what is 1 plus 2? And you can see it has a picture of a bear and then 2 bears. And so of course the answer is 3, and it says there's a yellow disc with a hole in it. And so I'm going to take my yellow disc with the hole in it, and I'm going to put it next to the 3. And then the next question is, it's a red disc with a hole in it, and it says, what is 1 plus 5? And so I'm trying to find the red disc with the hole in it. Here it is. What is 1 plus 5? Of course, the answer is 6, so we put it next to the 6. What is 1 plus 7? The blue disc with the hole in it needs 8. What is 1 plus 6? 1 plus 6 is, the answer is obviously 7. What is 1 plus 4? And that answer is 5. And then 1 plus 3, the answer is 4. So we've done these all right, and now I'm going to grab some discs and do the other section without looking at it. So I'm just going to take these and put them here. I have no idea, I'm not even doing the math. And then we take this and we flip it over. And you can see, you'll be able to tell whether you've done it right. Look, the blue with the hole in it is lined up, the red with the hole in it, the purple with no hole in it, the yellow with a hole in it, the orange with the hole in it, and the green with the hole in it. But look, this is wrong and this is wrong, and they're all wrong here on this side where I didn't do the math. So it's a self-correcting tool. Kinesthetic means you learn by moving. There are some discs that have, like, these are the letters that start with, or the sounds. It goes through subtraction, it goes through multiplication and some fractions and some money as well. So it's a fantastic learning tool for the younger grades. Speaking of kinesthetic learning tools, we have got our learning ramps. Now I'm going to talk about these for math because that's where they're, in my humble opinion, most useful. But there are states and capitals, there's music theory, there's, I think, language ones as well, Spanish language ones. So these are done with keys, and they have a string. And so you can see that it says times 2, times 1, times 3. Obviously this is our multiplication tables. I guess I'm going to do times 3. You take the string and you start at the top, and you're going to wrap the string around it, and I'll show you how that goes in just like this. You're going to do this number, multiply it by 3 or whatever number is in the middle, and you're going to get the answer on the other side, and so you're going to wrap it. So the first number is 5 times 3, and I'm going to wrap it to the 15 over here, and then I go to the next one. The next one is 6 times 3, so I'm going to wrap it from the 6 over to the 18. The next number is 3 times 3, but I'm going to now go through and do them wrong on purpose. And then we will turn it over, and you may or may not be able to see, but there are lines here, and the lines will tell you whether or not you've done it correctly. If the string is covering the line, you've done it well, and if it's not covering the line, you have not done it well. Very cool. Usborne Books More does not have actual math curriculum starting at about first grade, but they do have the helps that I've been showing you, and they also have math dictionaries like this one, where they have lots of illustrations in them to help show off what they're talking about, tables. So this one goes kindergarten through about 6th grade level math, and then this one goes 4th grade math all the way up through pre-calculus. And I have used this more as a parent guide than anything else. I tell my parent friends that, you know, once you have forgotten how to divide fractions, you need this book. Because you're going, especially for homeschool moms, you're going to have to teach those kids how to divide fractions and how to do tessellations and how to do this, that, and the other thing with respect to math. So this is going to help you remember how to do all those things that we've all forgotten. And it's a fantastic resource. We also have some lift the flap books about math, times tables and fractions and so forth, but I'm not going to go into those. What I will show you is our times tables practice pad. It's great. You can tear off each sheet and then just do practice. Sometimes there are pictures, sometimes there are not, but it's all practice and more practice and more practice, because as we all know, kids need the practice. Last but not least, I don't know if you know, but money is actually a math subject. And so we've got a great little book for $6.99. It's a fantastic resource called Managing Your Money. Great for middle schoolers all the way through adults. And it talks about everything from interest and mortgages to how to make money on the side as a kid. And, you know, credit cards and student loans and everything else. It's fantastic. Some illustrations in there as well, but just to make it fun more than anything else, the amount of information is fairly staggering. Next up is music. Usborne Books More does not have a whole lot of music books anymore, but we do have a couple that I wanted to share with you. First, we have our Listen and Learn Musical Instruments. This is great for teaching the various instruments in the orchestra and so forth. So it's called a Listen and Learn book. And what happens is that there are several cards in the front here. You pick a card and you put it here, you press go so that it knows which card is in here, and then you can press the various instruments to hear what they sound like. And as with all of our sound books, there is an on-off switch in the back. So that's great. And then we have a couple of keyboard books, and these have either 1 C scale or 2 C scales, depending on which book you've got. And in this book, it does not show notes, but it does show what the colors are. So, you know, you're going to press, for this one, you're going to press. Okay, so you can actually play real songs with this great little book. And there's lots of little songs in here. So this is a great one. And again, with the on-off switch to save our sanity. Next up is art. Usborne Books More has amazing art books. So the first thing to know about art and drawing is that you don't want to start too young. Kids need to get through a scribble period. So they need to get to the point where they are drawing real people, usually like a head and hopefully a body with then the limbs. Before that point in time, you just want to let them scribble. Their hands are not going to be ready to actually make drawings that look like something real. But once they start being able to draw like a person with a body as opposed to a person without the body, then you can start introducing our drawing books. And so we've got I Can Draw Animals and I Can Draw People, which are books my speed. I am not the best artist in the world, but they're great. They take a child through step-by-step drawing with shapes so that you can actually draw something that looks like a real thing. These are really good, like with sidewalk chalk for our younger ones too. So you don't have to actually draw on paper. You can draw on the sidewalk and it still looks amazing. Next up, we've got animal doodles. So Usborne Books More has a ton of fun art books to do. Sticker books that are just all kinds of fun. And then we've got this animal doodles pack, where these are just white clean cards. You can use any white clean pen and you can, complete the picture or draw patterns on them. And these are just fun cards to use. Going up a level, we've got the step-by-step drawing curriculum where you've got the shape, just like the I Can Draw Animals, certain easy shapes step-by-step to teach you how to draw certain things. So this is drawing, but we've also got drawing people and drawing animals all in the same type of book. And then you can fill in the pages, or you can use other paper as well over and over again to draw certain things. So that's the step-by-step drawing series. After that, oh, by the way, remember I mentioned when I was talking about the younger kids that we have older kid wipe cleans? We have starting cursive, and I'm including this in the art curriculum because it actually requires great fine motor skills and just very precise motions, just like any other part of art. So starting cursive is great. And then you're going to get into the more advanced drawing books. We've got drawing cartoons, drawing animals, drawing people. It talks about using color and shading, for example. But you're also going to continue to start with very easy shapes. And then you'll erase some lines and it will actually become the animal you want it to be. Lots of different little techniques in here for drawing as well, as you can see. And just a lot of fun for kids, for slightly older kids. And once you get past that, then you're ready for our Art Ideas. Now, Art Ideas is really a very comprehensive book. It's got all kinds of different techniques, charcoals and pastels, mixed media, and pen and ink drawings, charcoal, pencil drawings, stamps and everything else. Just all kinds of different media in here to play with. And so it's actually a very advanced art book. How are you going to draw some feathers? Here are some different techniques you can use. I mean, just fantastic. And this will take a kid all the way up through high school. I think it even does things like sculpture. All the way up through high school. This would be a great reference book. So that's our art curriculum. Let's talk about reading and writing, because we've already talked about arithmetic. All right, so Usborne Books More has all kinds of amazing classic literature. Our illustrated stories start off at about a 3rd grade reading level, and they'll go a little higher. So this is illustrated fairy tales from all over the world. We've also got things like Greek myths. We've got Shakespeare, and this has just a few of his stories, I think 6 stories, again written on a 3rd grade-ish reading level. And then we've got a few like ballet stories and horses and ponies and Norse myths that are written on a higher reading level. And there are fewer illustrations in these. Most pages have an illustration, but not every page. And so So that's the illustrated Norse myths ones. Again, Greek myths is lower and Norse myths is higher for some reason. And then we've got a couple of older Greek myths books. This is a great one. It comes in a library binding, which is what this is. And again, most pages will have a little illustration. Some pages have full illustrations. And these are story-based. So the next up, the Greek Myths and Legends book, is not story-based. It is, it's more encyclopedic in nature. And so that's the Greek Myths book. We've also got great fiction for all different kinds of readers. So I'm going to just show these off because they're great for young readers. Sally Rippon, the author, has a dyslexic son. And so she required, when she contracted with us, that we use a font that's good for dyslexics. And again, you'll see these are illustrated on the inside. So a lot of kids who have trouble reading will actually not have trouble reading these. They're early chapter books, probably the first chapter books that a child will want to read. And they're fantastic. And there's lots of practice for kids who need the extra practice. Each set of books, Billy B. Brown and Hey Jack, has at least 15 titles in it. We've also got things like biographies, the Extraordinary Lives collection. We've got extreme adventures for our reluctant readers. We've got mysteries. We've got all kinds of different books. And then we've got historical fiction. We've got 3 different volumes of this. I do believe they come in a set. This is Girls with, Girls Behind the Camera and Girls for the Vote. All of these books are about the girls who live in a particular house and at 6 Chelsea Walk. And they're written on a 4th or 5th grade reading level. And they talk about the various times in history that really changed the world. So when women's suffrage was a thing back in the early 1900s, that's when the Girls Who Vote is set. And then Girls Behind the Camera is in the 1860s when cameras were first being used. So great historical fiction with a lot of relevance for homeschooling curriculum. But then we've got other books. We've got graphic novels of classic tales like The Hound of the Baskervilles and Alice in Wonderland and The Wizard of Oz, Hamlet and Macbeth. The Three Musketeers is another one that I've got here. And so these are just all fun to read, and they're the classic telling of the novels. We've then got, I'll get to the dictionary in just a second. We've got Dickens and Austen and Shakespeare, the complete works of Dickens, the complete works of Austen, the complete works of Shakespeare. And so I want to just show you the Shakespeare book real quickly. Every play, and it's all of the plays of Shakespeare, every play starts out with a description of the characters in color, and so that people can understand the relationships between them. This is so-and-so's father and mother and so on and so forth. And then it has a prose retelling of the play. This is not done in iambic pentameter, but every few pages it will pull out a very important quote. It's something that people have heard over and over again. Be not afraid of greatness. Some are born great, some achieve greatness, and some have greatness thrust upon them. A rose by any other name would smell as sweet, from Romeo and Juliet. And so, as you can see, it goes through every play. And it pulls out quotes on every other page or so. And each play takes about 6 to 10 pages to tell. So it's a great, complete reference book for Shakespeare. And that was some of our fiction from Usborne Books and More. And now let's go into the writing. One of the things that we have, so this is an old version, but we have the writing box, and this is actually inside the writing box. And there are lots of different write your own storybooks now, write your own comic books, write your own poems, write your own magazines, and so forth. I highly recommend that if you want them, that you grab them, because they do occasionally go out of print. So in the write your own storybook, you can see that they give you prompts. So they first tell you how to write a story. And so they'll talk about things, and then they have a table of contents that the kids can write in. So here's how you get started. You know, where do you want to set it? Here's the story mountain where you've got a beginning, a middle, and an end, and the plot, the ups and downs of the plot, making up a character, putting him in a setting, whose story is it, personalization, and so forth. And then what's next? And so it's this particular one starts a story and then has you finish it. And along the way, there are things that you can think about. And then they'll have words either here or along the page that you can use inside your story if you want to. It's a fantastic little writing curriculum. I love it. The Write Your Own Storybook. Part of our writing box now. And then to help kids write, we've got grammar and punctuation. We've got the first illustrated thesaurus, which has easier words and fewer of them than our regular thesaurus, and I'll show you that in just a second too. Here's our not your everyday illustrated thesaurus. So springtime, seasonal words. And again, it's all illustrated so that kids have fun learning and growing. We also have Lift the Flap helps. Lift the Flap grammar and punctuation, for example. It talks about, you know, nouns, pronouns, and so forth. And it also talks about commas and exclamation marks and things like that. Great, great book. We've got a dictionary. This is the only dictionary that we have for words. Remember I showed you the illustrated dictionaries of math before? And that's along the lines of what it looks like. I love the fact that there's all kinds of pictures there. And last but not least, we have our illustrated original series. This is the Jungle Book. There's Anne of Green Gables. There's Little Women. Not every page is illustrated, but there are lots of little illustrations on most pages. And then occasionally you'll get a larger illustration like this one. All right, let's talk our health curriculum. In Massachusetts, at least, we are required to do a health curriculum, and what that really means especially for the younger grades, is let's talk about anatomy and physiology and how it all works. So starting early, we've got things like this great book of the human body that comes with a puzzle, so the kids can have fun while they're learning. We've also got Look Inside Your Body that I showed you earlier, but starting in about kindergarten, first grade, you're going to want See Inside Your Body. It is a systems-based approach, so it goes first to the digestive system, and you can lift the flaps and see what happens to the food when it gets chewed, when it gets swallowed, when it goes in your stomach, and then through your intestines, and so forth. And then, of course, boys love this part, out the rear end. Things you can lift the flap and see behind your rib cage, or your lungs and your heart, and how your lungs work and how your heart works, muscles and bones, your brain. Just very similar to the Look Inside Your Body, but much, much more comprehensive. So great for a K-2 type health curriculum. I literally had a public school teacher tell me it was perfect for a K-2 health curriculum, for your information. Then we go a little older, and we've got things like the Book of the Brain, the Book of the Body, and how it works. These are paperback as opposed to board books, and it talks about like the nitty-gritty of things. It goes into more detail. How do people see? How do people store memories and things like that? Great, great book. And then we've got the complete Book of the Human Body, which I would use probably starting 4th grade. I would use, before I get there, let me show you in the Children's Encyclopedia. This does not have the full first encyclopedia of the human body, but it does have some of it in here. So you'll see these exact same pages in the first encyclopedia of the human body, but this only has a few pages compared to what the first encyclopedia does. So I do recommend grabbing the first encyclopedia of the human body, but it's part of this series, and it's about for that age, 3rd, 4th grade. And starting 4th, 5th grade, you can start using the complete Book of the Human Body, and What I did with my kid, I just made it easy. Go read 2 pages of it. Every 2 pages is a different subject. So once a week, he would read 2 pages of this book. And he got a great health curriculum. Starting in middle school, you're going to want to talk about things like body odor and deodorant, and washing your face better and things like that, puberty. So those are covered in the What's Happening to Me books, which are very clinical. There's one for boys and one for girls. And they actually make great health curriculum books all by themselves. So you can cover a good health curriculum just with Usborne Books and More. So Usborne Books and More has amazing resources for history and geography as well. And I'm going to start here. This is about a 3rd grade reading level, maybe a 4th grade reading level. Our children's encyclopedia is chock full of great information. A lot of it is science, but there's a lot of geography and culture and history as well. So for example, we've got some geography with stuff about our planet. We've got maps of the world in the back. Okay, and it talks about how to read maps and everything else and all that jazz. But it's also got a really robust history section, pretty much in the middle. And it goes from ancient to more modern day. And it's got great illustrations. So this is a cutaway of a Viking home, you can see. This is what it looks like on the outside, and this is what it looks like on the inside, and everything that's going on in there. I love the way they do this. They did this with a castle too, for medieval times. It's fantastic. I love the way that they do this in these books. Machu Picchu, they've got real pictures in here too. It's great. This children's encyclopedia is worth every single penny. All of our encyclopedias really are. Then you've got things like this that combine science with history, or literature with history and so forth, like our historical fiction I mentioned earlier. So this is The World of Animals. It's one of my very favorite books. First, it talks about the animal kingdom. Again, everything is on colored paper, and every 2 pages have a slightly different topic, just like all of Usborne's nonfiction. This is internet linked, just like the children's encyclopedia, so it's a great report starter. If you want to find out more, for example, on smell, taste, and touch for animals, you can go to usbornequicklinks.com, and they have it there, all safe and pre-vetted for us all. And then once it's done with a little bit of generic animal info, it goes into the geography portion, and it's got a map of a continent. And then you'll see that some of the places in the map have bold on them. And then those pages are following. There's a 2-page spread on each page section in bold. And it's fantastic. I love this book. So that's The World of Animals. Then we've got more, going back to more history as opposed to geography. History of the World and History of Science in 100 Pictures. These are fun reference books. And it goes from ancient to new. And it talks about, it shows the picture of what's going on, so you can see the artifacts and things. It's like going to a museum. It's fantastic, but it's in a book. And then we've got a few books that deal with particular subjects. So this is World War I and World War II. The Sunlight curriculum uses this book in its 3rd and 4th grade curriculum, I believe, at the end of 4th grade. Thankfully, it's the end of 4th grade, and that is really truly the earliest I would recommend this book for. It does not spare you details or pictures. It talks about the start of the wars. Again, it's internet linked. It has pictures of things happening in the wars, including things like concentration camp pictures. It talks about the interwar period. Concentration camp pictures. And it's got pictures of vehicles. The print is fairly small as well. So I would really recommend going through this with your kids. And so that's a great book on wars if they're interested. And again, not for much younger than 4th grade I would say at the very minimum. We've also got a history encyclopedia, and we've got the Timelines of World History. Those are 2 different books, by the way. I just didn't show off the history encyclopedia, but this shows a particular time and what's happening in each continent. So Southern Europe and Western Europe, Eastern Europe, Africa, Asia, and the Americas. What's going on, in 500 to 699? What's going on in 1300 to 1350 in Europe, Northern Eastern Europe, Africa, Asia, and the Americas? It's fantastic. I love this book. So the Timelines of World History too. So those are some of our history helpers and geography helpers from Usborne Books More. As you've probably seen by now, Usborne Books More does a fantastic job with nonfiction, and I would be completely remiss if I did not share with you some of our science resources. So let's start with our See Insides. Our Lift the Flap books, and this is just 2 of them. The body book I already showed in the health part, but See Inside How Things Work starts with simple machines. Here's a lever, a cog, a screw, and so forth. And it goes through a car's engine. How does a car's engine actually work? With pictures of pistons on the inside. And how does a hairdryer work? How does a toilet work? How does a piano and an organ work? They're very different instruments. They sound the same. You can use some of the same music, but they are really, really different on the inside. And so these go through all kinds of different subjects, and they'll go a little older. This is one of our younger See Inside books, but then we've got our older See Inside books like the Lift the Flap periodic table, which is great for chemistry. It talks about all the different types of elements in there, and it has the full periodic table at least a couple of times in here. We've got See Inside Atoms and Molecules, a great resource for early chemistry. By the way, my AP chemistry dude looked through all of this, lifted all the flaps, and made sure that it was all accurate. He said something along the lines of, well, it was a little simplistic. And I said, well, yes, of course it was a little simplistic. It's for children. He said, but yes, it's all accurate. And then we have, just like for math, we've got our elementary science dictionary. This is written for probably a 3rd grade type child. You can certainly read parts of it to younger kids, and younger kids will get some stuff out of it, especially because of the illustrations and so forth. And then we've got things like experiment books, which are so much fun. We've got our academy books, which are lots of different things that you're going to need in order to become an engineer or an astronaut or a coder. And we've got science experiment books that are fantastic, full color, step-by-step, that talk about different types of science, physical science mostly, although some plant-based science and so forth. We've also got our new middle school types experiment books like the Math of a Milkshake and the Physics of Popcorn and things like that, that are great for middle school and above. And then we've got illustrated dictionaries of biology, chemistry, and physics, and this is what they look like on the inside. Again, just like the illustrated dictionary of math, they are great for high school. They're wonderful high school reference books. And they're well illustrated. Lots of great information in the illustrated dictionaries of biology, chemistry, and physics, and they're all combined in a combined volume that's about this thick, called the Illustrated Dictionary of Science, where you save some money purchasing that way. But really one of my very favorite books constantly has always been the Science Encyclopedia. Now you can see that this is a shiny hardback version. I highly recommend that homeschooling families get this in either the library binding or the paperback binding. Get the paperback, which is only $20 if you only have a couple of kids. If you've got more than 3 kids though, you're going to need the library binding. The library binding is very, very durable. It's all triple stitched, and it will last the entire length of your homeschooling journey. This covers all different sorts of scientific principles. Every 2 pages is a different topic. Just like all of our nonfiction, there are internet links that you can go to and find out more. Everything is done on colored paper, making it more easily read by dyslexia kids. And it is fantastic. There's even a glossary in the back. Okay, how ears work. Just all kinds of great scientific stuff, and table of contents and everything else. You'll be able to use this for years with each child. I highly recommend this. It's a great reference book. And usually most kids like to start picking this up around the age of 9. So I would highly recommend it for ages 9 through 18. When my son was driving and he asked how a car's engine worked, I told him to go and get this book off of our shelves, and he said, "Mom, I'm 17 years old." I said, "Yeah, but this is how I learned how a car's engine works." So it's great for really all ages, and it's lots of fun. Last but not least, I wanted to address some miscellaneous topics that Usborne does very well as well. Some of them are social science type topics, and some of them are just general life principles. So we have a great new series called That's a Job. I like outdoors, I like sports, I like art. What jobs are there? And it talks about 30-ish different jobs that you can do if you like the outdoors or sports or art, and then there's like 3 more. I forget them all. They're wonderful. And they talk to real people who do these things to find out the good parts and the bad parts about each job. We also have chess books, fantastic chess books to teach the basics of chess. So whether you know chess very well or not, you and your child can learn alongside each other, and it's very well done. My boys absolutely love those books. We have our Start to Cook book, which does not think that you know everything about cooking. So for example, instead of saying cream the butter and the sugar, it says put the butter in the bowl, put the sugar in the bowl, and mix it until it looks creamy. It's fantastic. Step-by-step instructions for every different type of thing. It has little abouts at the beginning of each section. Lots of healthy tips and so forth. How to make hamburgers, how to make a chicken casserole. Lots of good recipes in the Start to Cook book. And again, very step-by-step. And then we have some more social science type things. Understanding money, understanding business, understanding philosophy, understanding economics. Great for middle school and high school. And things like, it'll answer, how do you start a business? Why do some businesses fail? How do you get, tailored messages for social media and email and things like that. How do you make money versus lose money in a business? Leadership principles. How stuff gets made in factories and so forth. Great reference books. And here's economics. What's competition? Should you always do what people want? Is international trade a good thing? These are just some of the questions that these books will cover. And the money is not specific to a particular, it's not got dollars and cents, for example. It's not specific to a particular country because Usborne Publishing is a multinational company. But it will go into, where does money come from? How do we use money? And so forth. So lots and lots of great social science type books for middle school and high school as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that this was useful for you. I hope that you saw inside some great books that you maybe hadn't seen or considered before. Usborne Books and More has all kinds of amazing books for your kids. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.